Hello, everybody. Welcome to Down the Road with me, Joel Heitkamp. It's good to have you back with us. A lot of things going on in North Dakota. We're 7 days out from an election. 7 days out from an election. You've had plenty of notices. Get out and vote. I don't care how you vote. Get out and vote. That's the main thing. I actually look at it as though it's a duty. It's a responsibility. It's something that you owe it to the people that came before you and created this great country to go do. I mean, get out and vote. There's a lot of different ways to do it. I voted, and I'm going to continue to vote in a way that's safe, COVID-wise. But I'm fairly comfortable that the individuals that have set up the polling places that you can go to on Election Day are making it safe as well. And thank them when you see them. Those poll workers and the people that are doing that are right there on the front line of all of this. And so take the time to thank them. We've got a lot of things planned for you today. We do, but one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to get a chance to visit with Renee Mock. Renee is the director of the Bismarck-Burley Public Health. Yesterday, a big visit with Dr. Burke coming to North Dakota. And so we asked Renee to come on with us. She said yes, and she's here right now. Renee, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thank you for having me.
Whatever you're getting paid, it isn't enough. Let me go on record with that first.
I appreciate that.
Did you ever think when you took this job that this was going to be what you had to deal with and do?
Absolutely not. I mean, we plan for pandemics, but not to the extent and the extreme that it's been for the last 6 to 7 months, that's for sure.
Okay, that could go down as one of my dumbest questions ever, but I had to ask it because I have to know what's going through your mind. I mean, what when you get up in the morning, I mean, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, here we go again. Basically, another day, don't know what it's going to bring. And that's pretty much how it's been since the very beginning, actually.
Yeah. Because you and your workers and everybody else are right there. I mean, you are right there, as close to this as you can get. How much does it scare you as an individual? Now, not as a health official, not as an individual that's out there, looking out after all of us, but what about as an individual, as a human being?
Yes, it is very scary to me. I think my biggest fear right now is the lack of confidence and adherence to the local public health officials. We've always been at the forefront for advice when it comes to healthy living for healthy populations for our community. And we saw that right away in the beginning of the pandemic, that people were taking this seriously. And that has just not been the case, especially the last few months. And that is really hard to see as an individual living in North Dakota my entire life. And that community piece and, coming together to protect your neighbor, it's just not been the same the last few months, especially.
Well, that's one of the reasons that we're anxious to talk to you because, I read it, I'm about ready to throw my hands up type of a comment because you're in a war. I mean, you're in a war here and you're trying to tell all the people that you're trying to protect what to do. And there's absolutely no question that you've done that. I mean, there's no question that what's going on in Burley County or Bismarck is because of the fact that they just haven't had a chance to find out what to do. And yet when Dr. Burks came yesterday, I mean, she's one of the leading health officials. She's right there on the podium with President Trump all the time. And she came yesterday and said, I haven't seen a town worse than Bismarck with any compliance whatsoever to wear a mask. And that had to be really frustrating for you.
Yes, super frustrating, especially as the capital city. We're here trying to do what we can to represent our capital city across the nation in a positive way. We've been in the news all over the place for all the wrong reasons, unfortunately. And then when Dr. Burks came yesterday in her reflection on our city, it was really pretty much confirmation of what we kind of knew at the local public health level, that people weren't following protocols and guidelines. But to hear it from her, it really hit home. And to hear how she's been to other states and she's seen it and compared other states that are having outbreaks, and to see that it's this bad in Bismarck was really, I hope it's eye-opening for people that hear that and listen to that, because she has seen all stages all across the entire nation. and said that pretty much outright yesterday, that this is the worst place she's seen.
So how did she evaluate that? Did you drive her around town? Did she come in stealth and just, go to stores and go everywhere else, and so she could do an evaluation? I mean, how did she come to that conclusion?
So actually, I was not involved in her coming here. That was all, I believe, done at the state level. And she didn't mention any of the places that she went to, but she referenced grocery stores, hotels, and different places that, and that's what they usually do when they come to cities. They did the same thing in Fargo, kind of went around and looked and tried to see what the atmosphere is like here. What are the people doing here? What are businesses doing here? And so that's something that she does wherever she goes. And that was something that she really thought stuck out to her here in Bismarck, was just that last lack of mask mandates, people not wearing masks, businesses not abiding by social distancing. She said usually in other parts of the country, even if there's no mask mandate in place, businesses will step up and do the right thing, and you'll see a safe place for people. Like she said, she goes out and feels safe in places that have mask mandates, where people are abiding by protocols, and she said she did not feel safe here.
That's the last thing you want to hear as a state, and the last attention you want to draw to your state. You mentioned that we've been on the front page. We've been noticed all over, the United States, and actually Canada. I've had them on my radio show as well, where they're sitting there talking about what they did, what other states did. As I told you before we went on air, I contracted COVID. And I think that people refuse to listen to the fact that myself wearing a mask is not going to protect me from COVID. That isn't what the mask is all about. And so just one more time, even though you've done it thousands of times through this pandemic, explain that to people if you would.
Yes. So you are wearing a mask to protect others. And I think that's the biggest misconception. Like you said, you're not protecting yourself. You're not doing it for yourself, for your individual rights and responsibilities. You're doing it for others in the community. And that's really what all of the mitigation measures for public health are about. We've seen that before with secondhand smoke and the impacts that has on others. Someone is free to smoke, but when your secondhand smoke impacts me and my health, that becomes an issue. And that's exactly the same thing here with the masks. It's a simple measure that we can do. Everybody can do it. And it's a great measure, easy measure to do, to have a great impact on the spread of the virus.
Okay, Renee, here's your insurance policy. And I mean this. If you want to look at me and say, Joel, that's political, I don't want to get into that, or hey, that isn't my job. But it doesn't take Dick Tracy to figure out that if you had a vote on a county commission, or if you had a vote on a city council, that you would vote to require people to wear masks. The reason I'm asking you this is, do you think they should in Burleigh County? Do you think they should in Bismarck? Because Fargo, Grand Forks, Minot have all required masks now, as dictated by the mayors of those towns. And so to do what you need to do with where you're charged to do it, should and do the political leaders need to require people to wear masks?
So great question. And you can see, as you said, all the cities that are coming together and making the decision to implement mask mandates. It's unfortunate that we can't just do a statewide mask mandate at this point, just because the numbers across the entire state reflect that something like that would be very instrumental in making a difference on our statewide numbers. But we have to do what we can at the local level. I'm a local health official and working with my city commissioners to try to make a difference for the city of Bismarck. So yes, obviously it's one of the most important and easiest to implement of the mitigation measures that we have offered, in addition to social distancing and large gatherings and limiting those and such. So absolutely they should consider it.
So let me throw this at you. When I go, I usually go to Fargo. I used to travel all over the state, and unfortunately I can't do that anymore because of COVID, but I used to do my radio show all over the state. When I travel to Fargo, I'm charged with, hey, stop here, stop there, go here, pick up that, because my wife is at home, and there makes no sense for both of us to go to the grocery store. If I walk into Costco, for example, I'm required to wear a mask. If I walk into Walmart, I'm required to wear a mask. If I walk into Dan's Super Value, Shields, all of these different places where business is done, I'm required to wear a mask. How does that sit in Bismarck? Because I got a call today from people on my radio show where they were talking about, hey, that's not required. If you go into Costco in Bismarck, you're not going to see many people wearing a mask. And I know that Costco has done this on a national level. And so what I'm getting at is if every business, every employee starts adhering to what you've recommended, wouldn't that solve what you're talking about?
That would absolutely solve it. There would be no need to mandate it if people took this upon themselves to do that. But unfortunately, as you said, it hasn't been done. I know some of the corporate places, Walmart, Target, Costco, have mandates because of their national chain. But I think it's been really relaxed because of the lack of compliance and just some of the disruption that or pushback that people have. But if it was required across the board, there would be no other choice, but every business would have to do so.
Renee, I have a little over a minute that I get a chance to visit with you left. I have this image of, because the mayor of Bismarck has said that, look, it has to be done at a state level to be effective. The governor of the state of North Dakota has said that has to be decided at a local level. It's like this hot potato that everybody's passing around. Nobody wants to take responsible of. How do you fix that?
How do you fix that? That's a very good question. I guess I can only do so much in my position is to bring the concerns forward, bring the truth forward regarding public health mitigation measures, our rates. I've shown the problem that we have with our hospitals and their capacity and staffing and our numbers being, really elevated. I feel like at this point I've done all that I can as the local health official, and it's up to our leaders now to take some leadership, ownership of the decision and do what's right for the community. There's science behind it. We are here representing what works and what's been proven to work across the nation, and I'm hoping that they do the right thing.
You know, Renee, it takes guts to say that because some of these people sign your check. So good for you for doing it. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me.
You bet. When we come back to down the road, we're going to visit with Jim Shaw. Jim worked to get the name of Woodrow Wilson High School in Fargo changed. And you know what? He worked at it for a number of years, and he did. We're going to visit with Jim right after this.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together today and stand united in the fight to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Case counts are steadily on the rise in the Bismarck-Mandan metro area, so please do your part. Protect yourself and others by wearing a mask when you're not at home. During the pandemic response, scientists have determined wearing a mask is a benefit to you and to those around you. This help keeps others from getting sick and may lessen the severity of illness if you were infected with COVID-19. We're all in this together, so let's get kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep our community strong. Let's show everyone how we come together to keep Bismarck the safe, resilient community we know and love. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus. That's health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Beck Communications is honored to be recently recognized with 3 Broadband Now awards. Beck Communications Cooperative was awarded in the categories of Top Internet Speeds Nationwide, Top 3 Fastest Internet Providers in North Dakota, and North Dakota's #1 Fastest Fiber Provider. It's only through the support of our members and customers that Beck Fiber delivers award-winning speeds and service. Thank you, Beck Communications Cooperative members and customers, for your years of continued support.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
Is your business phone system outdated and expensive to maintain? Most large VoIP companies leave you on hold or struggling through online support and training for your employees. With Beck Connect, you always have fast, friendly, local support. Familiar faces with the know-how to keep you connected. Take advantage of the newest technology in voice calling, video conferencing, and virtual meeting rooms. Beck Connect gives you all the features you need with no upfront investment and no obsolete hardware or software ever again. Simplify your communications. Choose local. Choose Beck Connect.
Welcome back to Down the Road. I've been looking forward to this, been looking forward to it since he said he would do it. Let me give you a little background on our next guest. Jim Shaw, longtime journalist here in the Fargo area in the Red River Valley, well known. Has held a number of positions. He worked as a reporter with WDAY. He has been a news director and basically the boss of KVRR, which is our local Fox affiliate here in Fargo. He's a columnist. He's an activist in terms of if he sees something wrong, he's willing to write about it and talk about it. And so, you know what? Let's bring him in. Jim, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thanks for asking, Joel. Always a pleasure to talk to you.
Okay, so let's talk about the time, because actually I better set this up and explain to people that you found out a lot more about Woodrow Wilson than I ever knew. And there was a high school named Woodrow Wilson in Fargo. And what was it that prompted you to go after that name and to push to get that name changed?
About 3 years ago, I was watching a documentary on PBS about World War I and Woodrow Wilson. And I was just looking to learn about this war that I didn't know much about and Wilson. And I was just shocked with what I heard on this documentary. I had never been taught any of this stuff about Woodrow Wilson, whether it be his racist policies or, and this gets overlooked, his crackdown on American constitutional rights. I bet you didn't know this, or many of your viewers didn't know this, that it was a police state under Woodrow Wilson once the war started. And people were arrested and imprisoned for speaking out against the government, or for not buying war bonds, or newspapers and magazines were shut down. American citizens were spying on American citizens. And if I knew that Joel Heitkamp in his own house, or if I even suspected that Joel Heitkamp in his own house was criticizing the government, you could be arrested and thrown in jail. And if you want, I can talk about the racist stuff too also now. You want me to go into that also?
Yeah, we'll get to that, but a little background on Wilson himself. How did he get, was he from the South? I mean, when you hear that, okay, where was he from, Jim?
I can't remember which state, maybe South Carolina.
Okay.
Frankly, until I saw that documentary, I always thought he was from New Jersey, because he was president of Princeton University in New Jersey, and then he became governor of New Jersey. But he was born and raised in the South, and he was born and raised with attitudes where people of color were to be disrespected and not treated as equals, and to be discriminated against.
Well, Jim, let's go down that road, because in my talking to you about your efforts to do this, and like you said, it was a long process. One of the things you continually brought up was, and we didn't get to the, the fact that he could crack down any way he wanted, and it was that type of government at that time that could literally walk right into your home and stop you from being critical. We'll get to that in a second. But just the racism, I didn't have a clue about it. I didn't know about it until you brought it forward.
I didn't know either. It actually started when he was president at Princeton, and he put in a policy where he would not allow Black Americans to be admitted anymore, and he rescinded the admission of previously admitted Blacks. Then he becomes president of the United States, and for decades, the federal government had been integrated. He comes in and he segregates it. Blacks are no longer allowed to work with whites. They're no longer allowed to use the same bathrooms. They're no longer allowed to eat in the same lunchrooms. There are cages that Blacks had to work in so they didn't get near white people. Also, Black people, it's terrible. Also, Black people were fired by the hundreds. Wilson fired them and replaced them with white people. Black people were not to be hired anymore in the federal government. And to make sure that no Black Americans slipped through the cracks, they put in a requirement that people applying for jobs had to have a photo ID. And the point of that ID was to make sure that it wasn't a Black person applying for a job. And perhaps the worst thing were dozens of race riots took place in the United States against African Americans, and thousands of African Americans were murdered by white mobs with the encouragement of Woodrow Wilson. The NAACP begged Wilson to speak out against these riots where African Americans were lynched and beaten to death and shot to death. Wilson did nothing.
Okay, I want to hit the police state too, because we're going to get into right at the end in the little bit of time we have left. We're going to get to what you were able to accomplish and that process quickly. But I want to talk about the police state, because there's a lot of people that fear that as America we could go back to that. So describe how he treated the power of the government.
Well, they actually put in a propaganda department, first ever in the country's history, that wasn't far off from what the Nazis did. The point of this propaganda department, especially during the war, was to promote Wilson and the government. And it was to suppress free speech and criticism against the government. And again, you did not dare to criticize the government, even though, by the way, a lot of people were put in prison even when they didn't criticize the government on trumped-up charges. I could just say Joel Heitkamp said something bad about Woodrow Wilson, you're in the slammer, no proof. And these were not just 30-day prison terms. Eugene Debs, former socialist candidate for president, he was in prison for 10 years and basically died in prison because of criticism of the government. Jim, was a very scary time to be an American.
Yeah, I have about a minute left, Jim, and the win. Just the sheer win. What did it take to get the Fargo public school system to get that name off that high school?
It took a community effort. It took other people to get on board. It took them to understand Wilson's history and to understand that it is inappropriate for a public school to honor a man who took racism to a new and frightening level in this country and crack down on American constitutional rights. The public came on board, they spoke to the school board, and they connected. The school board finally got it. They had no choice because once they learned the record, they couldn't keep that name.
Well, congratulations. Congratulations, way to go. I wouldn't want my diploma to say that, and I think the people whose diploma does say that will get the reason it got changed. Jim, way to go. We'll do this again.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me.
When we come back here on Down the Road, Patrick Hart wants to be North Dakota's state auditor. Let's find out why right after this.
I just went in for a regular mammogram and I found out that I had a little tumor.
Through the exam and the biopsy, it was determined that I had cancer.
I got a call from one of my doctors that I was diagnosed with breast cancer.
After 5 years, they found a local reoccurrence.
The first thing you hear when you're told you have a cancer, it's a little daunting because you don't know where to go with it.
Since 1999, in a partnership between CHI St. Alexius Health and Sanford Health Bismarck, The Bismarck Cancer Center has provided the most advanced radiation therapies and holistic support services for cancer patients and their loved ones for 20 years.
I've been at the Bismarck Cancer Center since it started. I actually was in the basement of Med Center 1 before, when we had old machines and old equipment, and thankfully the two hospitals at the time, St. Alexis and Med Center 1, joined forces to create the Bismarck Cancer Center.
I walk in the door, I get nothing but hugs, and I was marveled at them. I mean, I thought it was the best place in the world.
The staff is unbelievably compassionate, and they explain everything to you.
Everybody's genuinely concerned about your well-being, and the level of care is just top-notch. The Cancer Center just does such an amazing job of helping people.
To me and my family, the Cancer Center means life. It's given me the ability to live out my life with my family, my wife, my children, my grandchildren.
Because of them, I'm 2 years out. Get to move on with my life, make a difference now for other people.
I would recommend this center because the minute you walk through that door, they've got your back.
This center means so much to me and to the people that are in this building, and we just want to keep giving it back to the community and providing for them what they need.
I'm Katie. I've been cancer-free for 2 years.
I'm Steve, and I've been cancer-free for 4 years.
I've been cancer-free for 10 years.
10 years.
11 years.
15 years.
My name is Lainey, and I've been cancer-free for 18 years.
Bismarck Cancer Center, your partner against cancer for 20 years.
Who do you trust with your digital life? Not all cloud backup providers keep your data truly private. Beck Cloud Backup uses advanced multi-layer encryption to keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business documents secure and only for your eyes. Your Beck Lightband Internet service already includes 50 gigs of free storage to keep your digital life safe and secure. Call us at 701-475-2361 to start using your Beck Cloud Backup today.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Down the Road. The North Dakota State Auditor's Office has been the focus of a lot of controversy. It really has. If you talk to the North Dakota State Commerce Department, they're mad at them. If you talk to the governor's office, they're mad at them. And so there's a lot of people taking a look at the race that the North Dakota Auditor's Office has going on right now. People like auditors scare the heck out of me because they can count really well and they check over and make sure you're doing things right. Well, I'll tell you what, Patrick Hart wants the job, and he knows how to count. He has been an auditor with the North Dakota Department of Agriculture and the North Dakota the Public Service Commission. He joins us now. Patrick, good to have you on Down the Road.
Thanks for having me, Joel. I appreciate the opportunity to get the time to talk to you and also my constituents out in the field.
So why do you want the job?
Well, you know, Joel, I think more than ever, this is the right position, the right time, and I feel like I'm the right guy for this. As you said, I do have auditing experience. I audited for the PSC and for the Ag Department. And really what I learned there is some values that I want to bring to the Office of the State Auditor. I think that office needs to have its integrity restored. And I think the main thing that we need to do is to start getting that agency to earn its respect, and I think that I have a really good plan to do that.
See, I don't think it's ever wrong to bring up the record of the incumbent if you're running against him. I mean, it isn't like you're going around the state calling his dog names or bringing up his whatever family. I don't even know if he's married, but it isn't like you're doing that. You know, what's being talked about in this race is the actions that the North Dakota State Auditor has taken. So talk to me about that and talk to me what you would have done.
Well, you know, there's a couple audits that really piqued my curiosity throughout this race. The first, as you mentioned, was the audit of the Commerce Department with, you know, Commissioner Comer. And that was just really a travesty all around. Essentially what happened is the auditor came in and some funds were misplaced in the wrong biennium, in the wrong budget. And that is, you know, an audit, an issue that has to be fixed. I absolutely agree that it is. The way that this situation unfolded, though, is that the audit results didn't have, for one, any remedy to fix that situation. And, you know, Josh Gallion, my incumbent opposition, really throws this yellow book of auditing out, but in section 918 specifically says that if there are issues, there has to be a reasonable way to address those issues and move forward. And that's what I've been saying all along, is that we need to provide solutions. And instead of doing that, instead of following the yellow book standard, he got this audit result and gave it to the Attorney General. The Attorney General was going to potentially press charges or look at that audit to see if there was grounds for charges. Since the Attorney General represents both the Office of the State Auditor and the Commerce Department, they farmed that one out to South Dakota Attorney General's office. After an investigation, the South Dakota Attorney General's office said that there weren't grounds for charges to be filed. Meanwhile, what happened is every single person at that Commerce Department is walking on eggshells, including Michelle Comer, who hired personal legal representation. And I think when you go into that situation and when you're working for the state, as I did, if there is an issue, you would think that the state, your boss, would have your back. In this situation, it didn't happen that way. Michelle had to incur legal costs, which are still on her, even though nothing was found to be flagrant enough to require charges being pressed. Now, what's even more interesting is that this has happened over and over again. Charges have never been filed. Meanwhile, employees all across the state in every department are fearful of that Office of the State Auditor. And when I talk about respect, that is not the way to get respect, and it's definitely not the way to encourage proactive compliance.
But here's the problem with that, as I see it. She's represented, and her legal department that she's represented by is through the Attorney General's office. That same individual that's supposed to have her back or give her recommendations, so she isn't looking as though she has to open up her purse and write checks for personal protection on the threat of a felony charge. That same person isn't representing her. All of a sudden representing the auditor's office and farming things out to South Dakota. So it's a double-edged sword for Comer. And once she won, she quit. She had been recruited to be in state government. She had a great practice. She had a great successful life in Fargo. And she said, you bet, I'll take this job, more of a service. She wasn't looking to get involved in politics. And so after she won, she quit. And so what you're talking about literally cost us one heck of a commissioner. And I wonder if the public gets that. I hope they get that through your campaign.
Well, and you know, time and time again, what I've seen with his audit results, and I'll call out another one of Stark County that was over collected in their general fund. Again, the solution was never focused upon. And to find a problem is only half of the battle. We really have to focus on solutions. Now, Joel, I came from a farm. I own my own business. I'm a contractor. And problems, again, don't make sense. We have to work on the solution. In this situation out west in Dickinson, they found this money that was over collected. But I talked to Jay Schuler, who's the county commissioner out there, and he said that this has been flagged again and again in audits. And finally, 3 months before an election, Josh Gallion has an audit report that he's waving all over the place saying that he found all this money that was overtaxed. And again, if there's a problem, we need to fix it. And I'll definitely hold the line on accountability when elected this fall. But we really have to focus on proactive solutions. If there is a problem out in Stark County, there could be that problem across the state. And if we really focus on the solution, we can try to farm that out. And then we don't have to reinvent the wheel 47 different times. It makes a lot of sense to me that if an employee were to come to me and he'd have a problem, that's only half of it. They have to start bringing solutions. And I don't see why the Office of the State Auditor doesn't see that.
So you have a situation where you have bipartisan support. I mean, he's ticked off that many people. You have both sides of the aisle saying, you know what, I'm throwing in with him. I want him to win this job. And yet, anytime you're taking on an incumbent or somebody, quite frankly, from the majority party in the state of North Dakota, you're taking on a Republican, and it isn't like you wear the Dem NPL on your sleeve. That isn't what you've ever been about. But You're taking on a Republican on the ballot, and it's a down ballot vote. How do you win that? I mean, I realize you've got bipartisan support, but how do you win the race like that?
Well, my message ever since I threw my hat in the ring has been that I'll maintain all audits in a completely nonpartisan approach. People ask me how I'm going to do that, and I'll tell you the same way I did it out in the ag department. It's the same way I did it for the PSC when I was ensuring that farmers had a fair shake with the elevator. And really what I did was strictly focus on compliance with the law. It didn't matter the politics of the farmer. It didn't matter the politics of the elevator or the politics of myself. There was simply compliance and non-compliance, and that was it. Past that, I think we really need to focus on what I've been saying all along. And it's all too funny, I'm going to say this, Joel. For 7 or 8 months, ever since I threw my hat in the ring, I've been focusing on ending waste, fraud, and abuse across all state agencies. We see it all the time. There's not a single week this election cycle that I haven't seen a new headline highlighting what I would consider one of those three: waste, fraud, and abuse. Last night, I saw Josh Gallion's new campaign ad, and he has a really catchy slogan too, Joel. You want to know what it is?
Yeah, I do.
He's going to end fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's just really interesting to me that if he's really focused on that, why haven't these solutions been brought forward over the last 4 years of his career?
Well, I can tell you this: it's the biggest form of flattery when they're copying. I was audited every year as a rural water manager, and that wasn't because we were doing something wrong. We had federal dollars, so by federal requirement, we had to be audited, and audits made me manage better. They did. They made me look at something, and there's findings in any audit. It's like, look, you need to do this. You need, for an auditor to sit down and work with you and say, look, here's an area you have to focus and get better. I found that to be really positive. I have a minute left. Is that how you're going to manage this office?
Absolutely, Joel. That's what I would refer to as a value-added audit, where you actually, instead of focusing again on a problem or an area of non-compliance, you dive deeper and do a root cause analysis, and that lets you look at if there was a lack in training, if there was ambiguity in the law, or if there was just a simple mistake. And I think once you really delve into that, you come up with solutions. When the state auditor has been parading these audit results out in press conferences and flashy manners to gain attention to himself, he's really leaving the audited entity, which are, my state employees, out to dry. And that is absolutely not right.
I do this with any candidate, so I'm going to do it with you. I didn't try to make this into a free advertisement as much as what I wanted people to know who you are. So tell people where to get in touch with you. Tell people where to find out more about you.
Well, Joel, you can find me on Facebook at iHeartND, or on my website at Heart for State Auditor. And I'll tell you what, I'm a Valley boy. I grew up on a farm. I would have been the 5th generation farmer had I taken that up. I've started an oil field business, so I've worked on the farm, I've worked in the Bakken, and now I contract here in Bismarck. My claim to fame in Bismarck is that I don't have any family here, and over the last 15 years, every single person that I do business with is someone I've done good by. And I'm going to take that attitude to the Capitol in Bismarck, and I'm going to try to make the state and government a lot easier to deal with.
Patrick Hart, auditor, or a candidate to be North Dakota State Auditor. Thanks for coming on, Patrick. Appreciate it.
I appreciate you, Joel. Thanks.
When we come back, Thomas Beadle, he wants to be your state treasurer. I had a Democrat on. I'm going to have a Republican on. He had to fight in the primary to get that spot. He won it. Let's talk to him about it right after this.
Bismarck Central, 4800.
4800, go ahead.
Requesting social services on-call team.
Stand by. 4800 social services requesting additional information.
You can advise social services that we have an 18-month-old female who was in a residence with a mother, now being transported to medical care for overdose.
Trusting your digital life to faceless tech giants can be risky. Will they keep your family and business information truly safe from prying eyes? If you subscribe to local Beck Lightband Internet service, you already have Beck Cloud Backup. Beck Cloud Backup is the safest, most private cloud storage for all your family memories, schoolwork, and business documents. Call 701-475-2361 to start using your free space on Beck Cloud Backup today.
You just might find the home of your dreams this weekend by watching the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes Sundays at 6 p.m. and Wednesdays at 7 on Beck, featuring properties from Bismarck, Mandan, Minot, and surrounding areas. The Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes presents desirable properties that are for sale, lets you meet your Alliance realtors, and provides critical insights into local happenings from community and business leaders. Join us this Sunday evening at 6 or Wednesday at 7 for the Alliance Real Estate Tour of Homes on Beck.
Today's households have more digital devices than ever before. More links to family, business, education, and entertainment. Beck Communications spent over 10 years building North Dakota's fastest fiber optic internet service. Beck Lightband Internet, outpacing speeds in large cities nationwide. Lightband Internet handles all your digital needs without throttling your connection to the world. Beck Communications, valuable digital connections in rural North Dakota.
As the mayor of Bismarck, I invite you to join together to get our kids back to school, preserve our local economy, and keep Bismarck safe, strong, and resilient. A community task force has been launched to slow the spread of COVID-19 in our community. We're all in this together. Protect yourself and others by doing your part. Wear a mask when you're out and about, and slow the spread of COVID-19. For more information, visit health.nd.gov/coronavirus.
Good to have you back with us on Down the Road. Thomas Beadle. Thomas is going to join us now. He's a Republican candidate for state treasurer. He wanted the job. The Republicans said, you can have the job, and then he ends up having to take somebody on in the primary to get the job, and he wins that race. And now, you know what? He's on the ballot, in just a week. He's a state representative now, and he wants to have one of those jobs in the Capitol. Thomas, good to have you on Down the Road.
Joel, thanks for having me on. Glad to see you getting a new format here.
Yeah. So tell me why. Tell me why you want the job.
Well, the treasurer's office is important. It's critically important to the state of North Dakota, the duties that are carried out there. It's the keeper of the state's checkbook. Every dollar of taxpayer money that flows through the state of North Dakota goes through the treasurer's office. We need to make sure we have a fiscally responsible approach taking place in this office and that we have someone that you can trust to protect taxpayer dollars. Through my work in the Legislative Assembly and the Appropriations Committee, I fought for transparency. I fought for new technologies and efficiencies all across state government. And so I think my skill set, when you combine my legislative experience as well as my real estate background, where I know what it means to have a fiduciary responsibility to my clients and making them invest their money, I think well suits me for the treasurer's office going forward. I was asked by many of my peers, colleagues from all across North Dakota, to consider it and jump into this race once the incumbent treasurer decided not to run. After thinking about it a lot over the last holiday season, last December, my wife and I decided to jump into this race and put our skill set out there and see if the voters wanted to give us the shot to do it. Since January, we've been traveling all across North Dakota, driving a little Volkswagen Beetle all over the place. It's been quite fun. I think we've almost 20,000 miles we put on the thing, driving all around, meeting with folks, and the response has been good. I've been very appreciative of the feedback we've been getting from folks.
So what I know about the treasurer's office in my time, 14 years in the North Dakota legislature, is that when the Democrats had it, the Republicans wanted to get rid of it. When the Republicans had it, the Democrats wanted to get rid of it. So it begs the question, do we need it? Or should the work of the North Dakota Treasurer's Office just be done in the governor's office?
Well, first and foremost, the duties carried out within the treasurer's office are critically important. We need to make sure that those are happening. That's the day-to-day cash management, handling all the checking and depositing for all of our state agencies. We have the benefit, we're the only state in the country that has a state-owned bank, so we're able to do a lot of the duties by partnering with our bank to do that. But a lot of those duties right now are handled between the tax commissioner's office and the Office of Management and Budget, with the treasurer acting as the go-between. When we've had the conversations before, we put it forward to see if our citizens wanted to have a standalone elected treasurer, or if they wanted to divide the duties amongst those two agencies. That conversation's been had. We have the treasurer's office. We have 10 constitutionally elected offices in North Dakota, more than any other state. And I think that's where some of that conversation's been in the past. I know that's where my take on it was. But as long as that office is there, we need to make sure that we have someone we can trust to do the job well.
I supported keeping the office. I think it is needed. I think the state treasurer's office doesn't spend more money than it needs to. I think that the state treasurer's office has the type of staff, albeit small, that it needs to get the job done. And so I think it's good that we still have the state treasurer's office. One of the things that everybody points to is the fact that the state of North Dakota's budget, I mean, I'm sorry, it's exploded. The oil industry, when the boom hit in the Bakken, in the Williston Basin, all of a sudden money was pouring into the state of North Dakota, which means that the legislature, whether it's conservative, progressive, or whatever, they both were putting in bills to spend money. And to see that money go where it needs to go, and to make sure that the checks, cash, I mean, to me, that's one of the main reasons for the state treasurer's office, is because we have grown to where the budget has just exploded.
Well, and our revenue sources have diversified and exponentially increased, no doubt about it. Oil and gas activity across North Dakota now counts for over half of our state budget. When you look at all of the one-time spending that comes in, the revenue that comes in that's spent on roads and infrastructure. And over the last 10 years in particular, as we've had the massive growth and explosion of economic activity, we've also had massive needs, whether it's investing more in K-12 education to deal with the new students that are coming in and make sure they're getting a quality education, or providing better roads and water infrastructure, especially in the western part of the state, but also in our rural farm-to-market areas, to make sure that they're able to keep up and adapt and deal with the economic growth. And you're right, the treasurer serves as kind of the point guard, making sure that those funds that come in are then sent out where they need to go, make sure that's done properly, and we need a detail-oriented approach, dot all the I's, cross all the T's, so we can make sure that it's going where it needs to go, so that we're providing the funds and the resources we need to. One of the things that this last legislative session, and due to oil activity being down, we're not likely going to hit the threshold where the prairie dog funds are going to flow into the buckets to go out and provide resources to cities and counties. Down the line, we're hoping it'll get there, but I don't think it will this biennium. But one of the things the treasurer is responsible for is making sure that all of our political subdivisions know where our revenue's at, know how those buckets are being filled, and providing that information out to the public, and when those buckets get filled, to get that money out to where it's needed, to get it to our cities and our counties so they can cover the critical infrastructure projects that they have within their area. And I think we need to make sure that we have somebody who's really diligently monitoring that and following it to make sure it's done right.
So I got 3 minutes left, and I think it's fair for people to know this. You are the grandson of Earl Strinden. Earl Strinden, longtime political figure in the state of North Dakota, somebody that I've met a number of times, had on my radio show a number of times. Excuse me. Love getting a chance to talk to him. What guidance has he brought to you?
Well, he told me earlier on this summer, we were at the lake cabin. They're in one of the senior facilities with all the shutdowns with COVID. We got him out to the lake and had family kind of rotate, staying with them out there. He told me early on that, well, Thomas, you let me know. I can come out either for you or against you. Whatever's going to help you out more, just let me, and I've appreciated that insight. He's willing to do whatever he can to help me. But the mantra he's put into myself, to all my cousins, and my aunts and uncles throughout all of our growing up, is the idea that you need to always leave the wood pile higher. That you need to make sure that you leave things better on as you found them. That's what I've tried to bring to my business career. That's what I've tried to bring to my legislative career. And that's what I'm going to focus on in the treasurer's office. Is just every day, just try to leave the wood pile a little higher so it's better off for those that come after me.
Well, he's going to keep an eye on you. The Earl Strindon I know, the grandpa that you know he's going to keep an eye on you if you win this race.
He calls me quite frequently already. I'm already getting the daily or weekly calls from him, making sure that I know what his thoughts are on the day.
Is he the one that told you to wear those Carhartts in your TV ads?
Well, he certainly is the one who, I mean, the gun that we had, he's the one who first taught me how to hunt and fish growing up. So he's the one who made sure that I was always dressed and equipped properly for when we would go out. So he certainly had an impact on it.
Thomas, I've been doing this with everybody that we get on to that's running a race, and that is to make sure that people have the ability to find out, more about you. What are the sites, social media, where do they find you?
So easiest one is Facebook, at Thomas Beadle ND. It's got all my contact info. That's the one we keep updated the most. We've also got a lot of information up at thomasbeadle.com. That's one that's been running for a number of years now, so just throughout my legislative tenure. So, check out, find some information about me there. Otherwise, I'm on Twitter, but no one really cares about Twitter as much. So let's do Facebook or online at thomasbeadle.com.
I check out what you say on Twitter, just to be on the record.
It's mostly NDSU football or Sioux hockey. I mean, it's pretty much mostly sports, and that's where I go to shut my brain off and have some fun, because Twitter can get a little toxic at times.
Okay. Thanks, Thomas. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Joel. Appreciate it.
When we come back, I save a little time at the end of Down the Road for some commentary. What a shock, right? I got some opinions, and I'm going to share with you right after this.
He once won a spelling bee in an ancient language that he did not speak. He is the only man to ever earn extra credit on an IQ exam. His academic degrees are considered legitimate spending currency in 22 nations, 2 principalities, and at Chick-fil-A restaurants in the United States and Western Canada.
I do not always engage with education programming, but when I do, it is the Dr. Duke Show.
Stay educated with the Dr. Duke Show, weekdays at 4 p.m. on Beck News.
Introducing Accord Comfort Sleep Systems, a better way to sleep. We offer you 5 different models to give you the perfect choice of support and body comfort. Every model begins with our exclusive Accord Comfort Reflex Layer. This ensures proper spinal alignment and a deep down body relief. Our 8-inch Whisper Breeze provides a medium firm feel, and our 10-inch Gentle Night model has a quilted top, giving you a medium plush comfort. Both use Outlast fabric on the top of your mattress, ensuring that your body temperature is not too hot and not too cold. Our Copper Rest Sleep Series is our premier mattress, offering your choice of firm, plush, and luxury plush. Every model uses copper-infused gel latex and provides all the health benefits of copper. Accord Comfort mattresses are handcrafted in the USA and come with a 60-night sleep guarantee. You're going to love sleeping with us. Order today exclusively at accordsleep.com or Tom's Home Furnishings in beautiful downtown Harvey.
You're looking for secure private cloud storage, but who can you trust? Big tech companies don't always keep your family photos, videos, and sensitive business information away from prying eyes. Your local Beck Lightband Internet Services comes with 50 gigs of Beck Cloud Backup free. Hometown service with top-tier security to keep your data truly safe and private. Get your 50 gigs free today. Call 701-475-2361 and ask about Beck Cloud Backup.
My name is Rich Shook, and I lost my best friend in a grain bin accident. Some of the emotional scars that when these incidences happen just resonates throughout the community like dropping a rock in a pond. I guess I'll never forget. At least the last moments we shared. That's why I think this is so important to get out there to people, is people think that it can't happen to you, and it can. The time it would take you to just kiss a loved one, and your life is over. I believe it's unacceptable.
This message provided by North Dakota Farmers Union.
Okay, the big question I have for you today is this. Do you know who Andrew Sadek is? Let me tell you a little bit about Andrew. Andrew is a student at the North Dakota State College of Science. He had gone there. He comes from the Wimbledon area, right? So he goes down to the State College of Science to get his 2-year degree. And while he's there, he's smoking a little bit of pot, like many of you people who are watching me did in college and might still be doing, but he's smoking some pot, right? And Andrew goes about and he gets caught selling, I think it was a $40 bag of pot. Not a big thing. And you got to remember, this was all before everybody was having a debate about whether pot, period, should be legal. And in many states now, we all know it is legal. In fact, in North Dakota, since the Andrews situation, we've approved and have marijuana legal in medical cases. So, you know, I think the world has changed when it comes to pot. But that being said, he got caught selling some pot. So they bring him in with a special police task force they have down in the southeastern part of North Dakota that involves a number of counties down there. Ransom County, Sargent County, Richland County, actually goes across the border into Wilkin County in Minnesota. And they sit Andrew down and they tell Andrew that he could lose as much as 20, 30 years of his life with this felony of selling pot. $40 bag of pot. And they get him in a room as a young 20-year-old man who's scared like you wouldn't believe, who doesn't want to go home to mom and dad and say, you know what, guys, I got caught selling pot. And so what does he do? He becomes an informant for them. They put him in a position where now it's his job to go out and find the bigger, the higher up drug dealers, right? You go out and you purchase and you come back and you say, this person is where I bought it, and this person is the one that's selling drugs in our area. So he's now in a position where he has to do something that he isn't trained to do on fear of going to prison for a $40 bag of pot. I'm going to keep saying that because it matters. It matters a lot in this discussion. Now, what ends up happening to Andrew? He's found dead in the Red River with a backpack full of stones, and he was shot with a .22. There's a big debate whether or not Andrew shot himself and then he fell into the river. There's a big debate over whether or not Andrew was murdered. I haven't hid the fact that it's my personal belief that Andrew was murdered. I believe that. I believe that this young man who just had a new girlfriend, who had his whole future ahead of him, wasn't in such a depressed state that he would go onto a bridge. It was the bridge that separates Minnesota and North Dakota at the golf course there at the Bois de Sioux. So it was what I call the golf cart bridge. But he wouldn't go on that and shoot himself. He had too much life ahead of him. So he's put in a position that's dangerous. He's put in a position where in the end it cost him his life. Now, let me share something with you. There's a thing that's running, and it's running on SundanceNow.com. You can find it there. It's a documentary called The Dakota Entrapment Tapes. That's right, The Dakota Entrapment Tapes. Now, the people that put this together came over to talk about how the United States of America is dealing with informants, dealing with young people like Andrew, okay? But they saw this case as such an abuse. They saw this case as so serious that they ended up taking their documentary and making it all about Andrew Sadek. All about Andrew Sadek, which if you think about it, it tells you exactly what those folks thought about it, and it gives you an opportunity for you to make up your mind what you think about the Sadek case. So I'm going to encourage you to go there. Go to SundanceNow.com, and not just because I'm in the documentary, not just because I made sure the Sadek case came to light and that light was shined on it in my job as a radio host. And I'm pretty proud of the fact that now I get a chance to make sure you know about it in my life in TV as well. So check it out. That's SundanceNow.com. Until next time, it's been good riding with you.